Well, yeah, thanks for the intro, and thanks everyone for coming to attend my presentation. First of all, I'd just like to ask everyone if you could please mute your microphones and turn off your webcams. Hang on, this is not a webinar, is it? We're actually doing an in-person presentation. This is a bit of a novelty. I've done quite a few webinars over the last year through the COVID lockdowns and things. So no, it's great to be actually do an in-person event for a change. Yeah. I'd like to pay my respects to the traditional owners of the land here. So that's the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. I think everyone won't have any trouble hearing me since we've got a reasonably small group for this presentation, but we also are filming, as you can see. So the video will be available for download for quite a while, apparently, on off the council website and resources. Right, so we're talking about reducing winter energy bills. So understanding your bill is a first step, and then looking at reducing your energy usage. And I'm also going to talk a bit about solar, because that's another way that you can reduce your bill. We've got a couple of slides here about the AEF, and they're a bit wordy. I apologise for that. These are standard sort of slides that I had to include. So yes, we've got a lot of services to help you understand and manage your energy and provide trusted independent advice. We're a not-for-profit organisation. We've been around for 20 years, well, a bit more now. Yeah. All right. Let's look at the bill. So this is just part of the front page of a typical bill. I've got a second page on the next slide we'll have a look at as well. And hopefully everyone's a little bit familiar. You've had a look at a bill, I hope. Or it can be painful sometimes, I know, but it is good to have some idea of the information that's in here. So normally up the top of the bill, which I've chopped off, it'll tell you who's sending you bill. In this case, it's AGL, and we'll also see that down the bottom. So that's the electricity retailer. That's a company who is selling you the energy, basically. Also up the top of the bill somewhere, which I've also helpfully chopped off, it'll tell you who's your local electricity distributor, which is the company that owns the poles and wires in your area. So if a tree fell on the power lines down the street, then those are the people that you would call. And in this area, I'm pretty sure it's United Energy mostly. If you go a little bit further west, you get into City Power. So some of the key numbers: average daily usage. So in this case, 10.95 kilowatt hours per day. So that's how much you're importing from the grid, from the poles and wires coming down your street. So kilowatt hours is a bit of a clumsy mouthful, but it's a unit of energy. So if you ran a microwave for 1 hour, then that would be about 1 kilowatt hour of electrical energy that it was consuming. If a good modern fridge, like a fairly energy efficient one, might, over a whole day, it might consume about 1 kilowatt hour. So it gives you an idea. If you run hair dryers and kettles, they're some of the most power intensive appliances that in most people's homes, and they're sort of up at the maximum limit that what you can draw from a standard power point. So yeah, you probably only need to run them for maybe 20 minutes to reach 1 kilowatt hour of power, but you normally wouldn't run those ones for that long. So yeah, it's that balance of how much power it's drawing and how long you're running it for is what adds up to that energy. All right. the next page typically has a bit more detail about what sort of plan you're on and everything. So you're going to have like a number here with many digits, which is your meter identification. So you don't really need that for anything day to day, but it could be useful if you ever had to really identify like what's going on. Some years back, there were cases of the dodgy door-to-door salespeople who were trying to get people to switch their electricity retailer, and the dodgiest of the dodgy would try and get hold of this number off, like they'd read it off a bill or something if you showed them a bill, and then they'd go and switch you over without your approval. So I'm pretty sure that the regulators have put a stop on that now, but yeah, so it can be important, that identifier for your electricity bill, electricity meter. What we've got down here is a rate, so how much you're paying per kilowatt hour of electrical energy. So in this case, it's 24.4 cents. That's a pretty decent rate these days, I think. And there's also a supply charge. So this is how much you pay per day, regardless of how much energy that you're using. So in this case, it's 62.9 cents, which is actually fairly low, I think, these days as a daily supply charge. I think this bill might be a little old. And you also can get discounts. So retailers now are very creative. You know, there's so many different plans out there that you can find from a galaxy of different retailers advertising all over the place. But yeah, you can get discounts for paying on time or for having gas as well as electricity, or, you know, there's all sorts of reasons why you might get it. Okay, so talking about that electricity rate, that 24 point whatever cents, so that was an example of a single rate. So all the electricity that you're using is charged at that rate per unit of energy. But yeah, also called an anytime tariff. There's also time of use tariff, time of use rate. And so that's going to have 2 or 3 different rates depending on what time of the day. So the peak time might be, say, 3 p.m. to 9 p.m. on weekdays. Because that's the time of day when the networks sometimes get a bit stressed because of all the power going through the poles and wires, and it's also the time when the generators sometimes get a bit stressed because they're trying to meet the supply. So that's why the electricity is sometimes, depending on what plan you choose, you may be paying more in that sort of late afternoon, evening kind of period. Another one is less common these days, but controlled load. So that's where you have coming out of your switchboard, there's a dedicated like circuit breaker and dedicated cable that goes out usually to a hot water tank. So that's got its own special rate associated with it, and so it's normally cheaper. But in return for that, it's like on a timer. So it's only activated, say, in the early hours of the morning. So that was the traditional time when there was excess electricity in the system. So the powers that be were trying to encourage people to heat up their tank of hot water in the early hours of the morning, so it's available through the day. That's in Victoria, we're starting to get to the stage where actually the excess is now around the middle of the day with solar. So in South Australia, it's already got to that stage a long time ago. So really, it makes sense for those controlled load timings to switch from early morning to early afternoon. So one of the simplest things you can do to reduce your electricity bill is to shop around. As I was saying, there's an infinite number of retailers out there these days with all of them with multiple plans. So it makes it very confusing, unfortunately. So one of the best ways to get a handle on that is to look at this website, Victorian Energy Compare. So there's a URL there that you can get to. That's a Victorian government site. It's the most trustworthy. There are other comparison sites, but they don't necessarily give you all of the options because they get their money by getting fees from the people that they're featuring. So yeah, I'd probably recommend the Victorian Energy Compare. If you're looking for to reduce your environmental impact, then there are things like offsets, carbon offsets, and green power is a type of offset, but it's probably the most reputable, but it's also the most expensive. And yeah, also you can choose your electricity retailer for one that's overall got a fairly low impact on the environment. And the best guide for that is the Green Electricity Guide. It was put out by Greenpeace and the Total Environment Centre. It's a few years old now, but yeah, the retailers that it lists highly are still probably the ones that we would also rate highly in terms of environmental reputation and impact. There's Energy Assistance Program. So this is a program that we're involved in helping with. So you can call us on this number here and get advice. So basically, we can help give advice on things like switching retailers, changing plans, energy efficiency, and so this program is targeted at people who have concession cards or they're on JobKeeper or in a hardship process with their retailers, that sort of thing. All right, so that was step one on the bills. Let's go to step two. So over the last year, heaps of people have been working and studying from home more than they normally would. And so if we look at residential space, yeah, there has been a bit of an increase in energy consumption. So especially over winter here, this is June, July, August in this middle part of the year. So we'd be expecting that to continue a bit. Like it's becoming more common now that people do work from home. So when you're at home, you're using more heating and cooling and appliances and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, it's fairly topical to try and get those winter bills down if you can. All right, so this is a standard pie chart to break down what households tend to, where they're using their electricity. And it's just a generic one. There actually is a lot of diversity out there between different households. Like people have different heat tolerances. Like some people are, very hardy for cold, and they'll go around in t-shirts in the middle of winter, and other people are at the other end of the spectrum. And yeah, the diversity of appliances out there is pretty amazing too. Especially now, you've got people mining cryptocurrency, and you've got people with spas and pools and security systems, and there's so much stuff out there that the actual pie chart might vary quite a lot from household to household. But in general, heating and cooling is a major part of it, and hot water is also a major part of it. So those are the ones to focus on, especially if you're looking at winter. Obviously, that heating can make up a large portion of your electricity. And yeah, if you're using gas for heating, which is very common in Melbourne and Geelong and Canberra actually, then yeah, it's a big energy user, but it's not going to show up in your electricity bill. It'll show up in your gas bill instead.
That's showing the electricity from the fan perspective.
Good point. Yeah. So if you've got ducted gas central heating, so you've got a big outside unit usually, that's heating up air and blowing it through ducts either under your house or through the ceiling space, then yeah, the fan required to blow that air through is actually quite, yeah, you need a big powerful fan to do it. Especially if you think it's blowing air into like bedrooms and things with the doors closed, then it's quite hard to push that air through. Like, where does the air go? It's either going to go under the door into the rest of the house, or it's going to leak out through all the cracks around your windows and things, and it will leak outside. Yeah, that fan can use 800 watts or 1,000 watts, which is, yeah, that's pretty high, especially if you got it running for hours and hours. So yeah, that's a good point. Gas heating can also have a surprisingly large electricity consumption as well as the gas. Yeah.
Actually, what's interesting is standby power is right now, because there used to be a big push to.
Yeah.
You got to turn off your devices on the wall and TVs on the wall. Is that not so important anymore?
Well, appliances are more efficient now, and yeah, well, there's standards for appliances that have to be met to be, you know, manufactured or imported into Australia, and they have been tightened up on the standby power, which is good. But yeah, again, it depends. In the chart here, it's only 3% of the energy, but depending on what appliances you've got, it could be quite a lot more than that. For example, one to watch out for is coffee machines. Like some of them, even though you've turned off the machine, but it's still turned on at the wall socket, the power point. Some of them still keep I don't know what part of the machine it is, but I'm not a coffee drinker myself. But they keep part of it warm, so you can have a constant power drain through some appliances that.
I am surprised on how low that is, though.
Yeah.
10% is very low.
Yeah.
Considering I go around the house and I make sure everything is turned off.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've got switches on the TV so that they go off as well.
Yeah. Well,
So
it's
I can't tell how low that is.
it's a good thing to do, to turn things off the PowerPoint. I actually mentioned that later on. But yeah, electronic gadgets like phones and iPads and laptops, they're actually quite a low power consumption compared to like anything that does heating or cooling or driving large motors. That sort of thing is going to use relatively a lot more power than small electronic gadgets. Yeah. So heating is what we're going to focus on. Nice little picture. So yeah, so your insulation in your ceiling or walls, it's doing the same job as wearing a warm jumper in winter. The thing that's maybe missing from this picture is when it's windy, you don't just want a warm jumper, you also want like a windproof jacket, a windproof layer on the outside, which is also a good thing to have in your house as well, like a building wrap, a wall wrap that helps to stop the drafts come through. So, and also just sealing up all gaps and cracks, which we'll come to right now. Yeah, so the typical Australian home is actually very leaky compared to other countries. The building standards really don't look at it, the leakiness. Even if you're building a new house to the minimum 6-star standard, there's no testing for leakiness. The modelling just has an assumed air infiltration rate. So yeah, it really doesn't get the attention that it should. So you can get a lot of value out of sealing up gaps and cracks as much as you can. So these are just some examples. Drafts under, like gaps under doors, so you can put seals on them. Around windows. These old air vents, like in old homes, they were sort of necessary because people used like unflued gas heaters or kerosene lamps or those sorts of things. So there was a risk of like poor air quality in the home from burning things like without chimneys and flues. But assuming you're not doing that anymore, then yeah, it's good to seal them up. You can put things over them, or you can use like gap filler and paint over them, or all that kind of stuff. Floorboards, there are products there. So what this is like a little foam cylinder, like a worm thing that you can push into the cracks in the floorboards, and there's even special tools to do that. And then you can put gap filler over the top. So there's a lot of draft sealing is quite suitable for a do-it-yourself sort of job. If you've got an old chimney and an old like open fireplace that doesn't really get used anymore, or rarely, then you can get products that you can push up into the hole in the chimney to help seal it up. Because otherwise that's a perfect space for air to flow in and out. And I was saying there's a lot of good do-it-yourself like projects here, and these videos are good. ATA Renew also had a really good guide on draft sealing. It went into a lot of detail about all the different products available and that kind of stuff. All right, I'm going to move through fairly quickly because I do actually have quite a lot of slides to get through, and I'd like to have time at the end for questions. So let's move on to insulation. So it can make a big difference, and often it's not very good. So what we have up at the top here is a pretty good example of insulation, where you've got in the ceiling space you've got bats. So soft, fluffy, rectangular things that squeeze down in between the timbers. And here we've got an example that's not so good. So this is actually quite common that insulation, even if it was installed really well originally, you can have you've had electricians or someone like that up in the roof. They need to move the insulation aside so they can do their work, and often they don't put it back again. So if gaps, you might think, oh well, it's only a small percentage of the area that's not insulated, but the issue is that it's like heat is trying to get out, and if you've got insulation in one part and not in the other, then it's just going to bypass, and it'll all be like funneling through. That the heat's going to be conducting through the ceiling where you've got those gaps. So even a small gap can have a big impact on the overall effectiveness of your insulation.
Can I just say that
Sure.
what I've read is, and it may not be 100% accurate, but they say I've read 5% gaps can lead to a 50% reduction in efficiency.
Yeah, that's right.
5% is
Yep.
very much.
Yep. So 5% gap could reduce your overall effectiveness by half. Yep. Yeah, it's true. That applies where you've got fairly good insulation. If it's really thin, then it doesn't make as much difference as that, but it still makes a big difference. Yeah.
Is it possible to kind of, if you have had it done before 210, get somebody to kind of look at it and redo it?
Oh, very possible. Yeah. It's even it's possible even as a do-it-yourself. And now there are some. It is something you have to be quite careful with. Working and moving around in a roof space, you can see if you step in the wrong place, you might put a foot through the plaster into the living room. Sometimes there's electrical cables. They shouldn't be lying around loose like this, but it looks like they are in this house. So you don't want to like trip over those and have bare wires, live wires. If it's the middle of summer, then you can get super hot up there. If you're confident and you know what you're doing, then it is possible as a do-it-yourself to tidy up the insulation, or even add extra insulation in a roof space. Or it's perfectly there are contractors that are fairly easy to find who will do all that sort of thing for you.
I have a recollection of when I had the
LED lights put in,
Yep.
that I was told that they had to move the insulation away
Yeah.
and it couldn't be over it because otherwise there could be a fire.
That depends on the type of LED light. So like
This was the first lot that came out.
yeah, so this is for downlights, right? So lights that are embedded in the ceiling, or there's a hole in the plasterboard and the light is up there. So so some lights heat up. So if you put insulation over it, then the heat's got nowhere to go, so it heats up too much. So yeah, that's one. Downlights, if you can avoid them, like if you're building or renovating or whatever, then probably just a pendant light, just with a cord hanging down is probably a better way to go. But yeah, there are solutions as well for that. Even if you do have a downlight that heats up, there are these like cone things that you can put over the light that allows that provides a bit of an air gap that allows you to put insulation over the top. So yeah.
But also there's plenty of LED downlights that can be covered for
Yeah.
now.
Yeah,
which
that's right.
an electrician can put in.
Yeah.
And yeah, they just completely covered, like you can completely cover it.
Just to
Yeah, I have had them redone.
just for everyone else's benefit, if they couldn't hear that, yeah, there are LED lights that can be completely covered by insulation now. Yep. Now, I don't want to get into too much detail at this point, if that's all right. Yeah, I've got quite a lot to get through, and we're already halfway through the time. Okay, so R value. It's just a rating for how well a product is going to insulate, how much resistance it provides to heat soaking through it. So this is an example for sort of standard insulation bats. So R value of 1, you're looking at maybe 50 millimeters thick, and then up to R value of 4, which is like 200 millimeters thick. And if we're talking ceiling insulation, then you should be aiming for R value of over 4, maybe 5, that sort of thing. And yeah, this was a study that was done, and it found that, yeah, we're in Melbourne at the moment. Melbourne insulation, most houses were a long way below that. So the blue bar and the orange bar is from around R2 up to R3. Yeah, whereas we want it to be a fair bit more than that in Melbourne to keep the heat in during winter as much as we can. You do get diminishing returns. You might say, well, if R4 is good, then why don't we go R10? Put in something this fat. Well, I mean, it will help a bit, but if you're really blocking the heat from going out through your ceiling, then it's going to bypass that and go out through somewhere else, like the walls or the windows. So, there's a bit of a balance. All right, so this is a guide that we have all about insulation, and as you can see here, this is all that's involved to put insulation in. I mean, it's fairly simple. You're just laying it down and trying to avoid gaps. Okay, windows. So windows, they can be your best friend or your worst enemy when it comes to energy. So what you want to avoid is in summer having a window where the summer, especially the afternoon sun, is hitting your glass and coming in, because like 1 meter of glass with like in full sun, that can give you as much heat as like a bar radiator. I mean, the amount of heat is quite significant. So you don't want that in summer, but you do want it in winter, obviously. So in winter, if you've got a north-facing window, then the low winter sun's going to come through that and provide some quite useful heat into your house. So, but then in winter, when the sun goes down, or it's a cloudy day and you're not really getting any heat through your window, then you've got the opposite effect where you've got your heat in your house. and it's trying to get out to the cold external environment, and the windows are a weak spot in your insulation. So so you say, okay, double glazing. Well, yes, but it's expensive, and if you've got windows already there, then you're unlikely to go for full double glazing. And even the best double glazing, it's still a weak spot compared to the insulated wall beside it. So yeah, you still might have, say, 4 times as much heat going through the window as through the wall, even if you've got really fancy double glazed windows. So it's a trade-off. I mean, we do want windows. We don't want to live in a sealed box. But yeah, just be aware of the trade-offs involved. Okay, so how can we improve them? Well, you can have thick curtains with the pelmet at the top and touching the floor. I think this one might be overdoing it a bit with the touching the floor. It's kind of yeah, the reason for that is that if you just have a window and then a curtain with a gap at the top and the bottom, then the air in between the window and the curtain cools down, and so it drops down because it's colder and denser, and you get warm air coming in behind it, and you get this circulation effect. So yeah, that's sort of cooling down the air in your room. So if you do have curtains that are intended to keep your room warm, then it's good to have a pelmet on the top. There are products like this plastic window film. It's almost like Glad Wrappy sort of stuff that you can apply on your window frame. And if we go super budget, you can, like if you're renting, for example, and you don't really have the freedom to make too many changes, then you can do a temporary bubble wrap insulation on the inside of your window. Another really good window covering actually is cellular blinds, honeycomb blinds. If they fit neatly inside the window frame, then they can actually have some really good R values. There are some of those products that have like multiple layers in them, like multiple air gaps inside the blind, so they work really well. Personal heating works really well too. So there's throw rugs, heat pads, heated clothing. So they're basically like the electric blankets that you have on beds, but yeah, more sort of targeted. So while you're working at a desk or sitting on a couch or whatever, then these sort of things can help keep you warm. The heat pads are really good at ground level to help keep your feet warm. Under your desk maybe, the heat comes up. Another one that I'd throw in here is you can get heated mouse pads. So if you find you're getting a cold hand in winter because you're working at home or whatever, and your mouse hand is not covered up, then yeah, there are mouse pads that have like a little sort of cover over them and a little pad that you just plug into a USB slot on your computer or whatever. So yeah, there's heaps of different products around there, and you can. Heated keyboard. I haven't seen one of those yet, but I wouldn't put it past them. So yeah, have a look on the internet, eBay, all that sort of stuff. Okay, so different sorts of heaters, running costs. So this is just based off like how much electricity or gas they're using, and how much that's going to cost you on your electricity tariff. So yeah, it ranges a bit depending on the size of the heater, like how powerful it is. Obviously, the more heat it's putting out, then the more energy it's going to use, so the more it's going to cost you. But the real exception here is the reverse cycle air conditioner, which is a lot cheaper than the others. And people are often confused by that, but there is some logic behind it. So like a traditional electric heater like this one or this one, it's very simple. All it's doing, it just works like a toaster or a kettle, right? It's just got heating elements in it, so wires that heat up when you put the electricity through. So 1 unit of electricity energy going in, it just gets converted into heat, and you get 1 unit of heat energy coming out, 1 for 1. And all of the electrical heaters, they work that way. Even the panels, the flat panels that you can put on the wall or whatever, it's still 1 for 1. The only exception is an air conditioner. It works in a different way. So it's not converting electricity into heat. All the electricity has to do is to turn the machinery inside it. And then what the machinery does is it's extracting heat from the air outside your home, and it's moving that heat inside. So we're not constrained by 1 to 1 anymore. And the good ones you can get 5 to 1, 6 to 1. So 1 unit of electricity can give you, say, 5 units of heat energy coming into your house. So 500% efficient compared to 100% efficient. So yeah, that's why, yeah, a reverse cycle split system air conditioner is actually the most efficient and cheapest way to heat your home these days. Do we have a question?
How does it compare to ducted heating?
Like gas ducted heating? Well, gas ducted heating, so the efficiency is a lot less than 100%. Because the gas gets burned and you lose some of that heat going out into the air. So you might get 80% efficiency in the burner, but then it has to go through all the ducts. And so as the air goes in the ducts and it's hot, but then when it comes out the other end, it's not so hot anymore. And because as it's going along, yeah, the ducts have a little bit of insulation, but not that much. So the ducts are losing heat as well. Yeah, so gas ducted heating is really pretty inefficient. And we have the electrical consumption for the big fan that we talked about before. So yeah, yeah, if possible, it's better to go with a split system rather than a ducted system.
Really quick, if it's winter, is it really warmer outside?
Well, it's colder outside, yeah, but...
You said it would bring in the warm air from outside.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I probably didn't explain that well enough. Okay, so say it's 20 degrees inside and 5 degrees outside, right? So you've got the outside unit of your air conditioner, right? So what it's doing is it's sucking in 5 degree air, right? And getting heat out of that 5 degree air and blowing it out at, say, 0 degrees. So it can still extract heat out of that air even though it's only at, say, 5 degrees. And it's then moving that heat through the pipe work and blowing out that heat into your house.
At 0 degrees.
No, it's the air's coming out at, say, 25 degrees inside the house. Yeah. If I can give you another example.
Sorry about this. I'm
No.
not going to tell me later. Sorry.
No, it's okay. Yeah, and you already have an appliance in your house that works on that principle, which is the freezer and fridge. Okay. So if you think about your freezer, what's that? Minus 10 degrees or something inside. Minus 16 degrees inside. So how does your freezer? How does your machinery in your fridge keep it at minus 16? What it's doing is it's extracting heat out of the air inside your freezer and exhausting that heat out the back of the fridge. Right? That's how it does it. And so
It's taking the heat blowing up behind the fridge and putting it cool into the freezer and the fridge.
Oh, so it's doing the reverse.
Yeah, absolutely.
that's right. Yep. So yeah, it is hard to get your mind around that a device can be 600% efficient. It seems like you're getting, it's breaking the laws of thermodynamics or something, but it does actually work. And yeah, that's how fridges work and some hot water systems. Yeah. So yeah, split system reverse cycle air conditioner is actually the cheapest, most efficient way to heat these days, especially since gas prices are going up. And if I can do a plug for my next presentation, which is at 11:30, I go into that in more detail actually. So yeah. All right. So fairly simple tips. Don't heat rooms that you're not using. Don't overheat if you can avoid it. Zoning, there are things like door curtains. But on the other hand, we don't want anyone to suffer from lack of heating. I mean, don't go to the extent that you're going to freeze yourself in your home, right? Especially if you've got health conditions and that sort of thing. Air conditioners. So yeah, if you're looking for more detail on those, then we've got a guide that you can access from our website. Yeah. We've got the link there, and we are recording. So if you want to go back and find any of these URL links later on, then you can find those through the council website. All right, so that was heating. Let's talk about hot water for a little bit. We won't spend too long on this because the focus of this presentation is reducing your winter energy bills, and hot water, it applies all year. You do use a bit more hot water in winter than what you do in summer. Probably because you turned up the hot tap a little more than you normally would, but also because the cold water that's coming into your hot water system is colder. So your hot water system has to work harder to bring it up to 40 degrees or whatever. So hot water, yeah, short showers, pretty straightforward. The variety in hot water use in houses is actually significant. So if you consider someone who's only having one shower a day, only one person in the house, 4-minute shower, it's got a low flow shower head. Now consider a big family with like teenage kids that are playing sport, having multiple showers per day, long showers, and they don't have a low flow shower head. That house could be using 10 times as much hot water as the first house or more. So there is a big range out there.
I got it switched off on the airplane mode. It's still. I just put it completely off. Sorry.
No worries. And there's also this interesting gadget called the shower dome. They're really not common, but the idea is that when you're having a shower, you've got all this heat coming onto you from the hot water, but then you're also losing all this heat out the extractor fan. So the idea is to retain that heat on you inside the shower. And you still have an extractor fan out here in the ceiling, but it keeps you warmer in the shower, so you don't need the water to be quite as hot. Okay, so hot water. So probably the best option these days, for a typical suburban sort of situation, if you've got a family, if you're using a reasonable amount of hot water, it would be a heat pump hot water system, which is it uses electricity to heat the water, but only uses say a quarter as much electricity as the old style electric hot water systems. And I'm going to talk about this a bit more in the 11:30 session as well. So I won't spend too much time on that, but we also have this guide here that you can find on our website. All right, home appliances. In winter, we'll also be using those. So using TVs as an example, again, pretty simple. Some people like to have the TV on for like ambient noise through the day. Well, if that's the case, then maybe you could consider a radio rather than TV. It's going to use a lot less energy. And you can also do things like adjust the brightness and turning off of the wall. We talked about standby power. So some products are actually really good now. The standby power is not that high, but yeah, some do still use a fair bit. And there are switches that you can get that like turn it off at the wall without having to bend down under the TV and do it. So there's a few options for that. Fridges and freezers. Now try and consolidate. So what that's talking about is a lot of Australians love their beer fridge out in the garage. And in winter, it's maybe not too bad when the garage is at like only at 10 degrees or something anyway. But in summer, it's pretty terrible when you've got a 40-degree garage, and then the fridge is trying to keep the beer cold, and it's normally a really old, inefficient fridge as well. It's the one that they've picked up from somewhere. So if you can get it into one fairly efficient fridge, then that's a better option. Fridge and freezer seals is probably a good one. Apologise for the American slide here, but yeah, our banknotes are probably even better than the American ones because they're sort of plasticky rather than paper. So yep. Lighting. So yeah, we started off with incandescent lighting, and then there's over time we've got better and better, more efficient lights. So LED is by far the best. There's all different types of LED lights. So there is a Victorian government rebate as well. So there's some information that you can have a look at our website there to upgrade your home lighting. So yeah, once you upgrade to LED, compact fluorescence not bad, but yeah, especially LED, then lighting isn't going to use as much of a proportion of your home energy that it used to like decades ago. So yeah, it's pretty good. All right, so I'll talk about solar a little bit. I might skip through this pretty quickly because it's not really the focus of the winter energy bill reduction topic, and we do whole presentations dedicated on solar and batteries. So the sun shines on the panels, produces the electricity, goes down some cables to a gadget called an inverter, which changes the electricity into the type, the right specification to use inside the house and also out to the grid. So your appliances in your house have the first call on the electricity that you're generating at any point in time. And then if there's an excess, then it'll automatically flow out to the electricity grid. So how do you save money? Well, yeah, so the appliances that you're running while the solar's generating, that's going to save you your full electricity tariff that we talked about in the start of this presentation on your electricity bill. So if that's 25 cents per kilowatt hour, then that's what you're going to be saving for every unit of energy that you're generating and using directly at the same time. Your excess electricity that goes out, feed-in tariffs are going down at the moment. So in Victoria, it's from July, it's going down to 6.7 cents. So a lot of people just compare these two numbers and say, well, hang on, shouldn't it be at least the same? There are actually some good reasons for that, but haven't got time to go into that now. So the real takeaway from this is that if you've got solar, then it's good to, where possible or feasible, try and shift your consumption to around the middle of the day when it's sunny. And that's when you get your best value out of your solar. Payback is good. It varies with a whole heap of factors, but yeah, so you spend money up front, then you save on your bills. So you might get your money back in around maybe 4 to 9 years, depending on all these factors. So people look at 7 years, 9 years. That's a long time to get a payback, but if you compare it with financial investments, it actually works out really good. Like you can convert it to an equivalent interest rate, and it's going to easily beat any like low risk financial investment at the moment. It'll beat paying off a mortgage, and the other good thing is that you don't pay taxes on bill savings. So yeah, it's a tax effective sort of investment as well. So yeah, I would definitely recommend solar.
And it's reducing your carbon footprint.
Reducing your carbon footprint, thank you. Yep, so environmental benefits, definitely. Yeah, so just as long as you've got a sunny roof and you're going to be staying in your house for a reasonable number of years, then yeah, solar's pretty much a no-brainer.
When's it coming to an end? It is coming to an end, isn't it? The feed-in tariff is coming to an end. 2024 or something, is that right?
Okay, so what you're referring to is the premium feed-in tariff. That was only available to people who installed solar up until about 2011. So that was a really high feed-in tariff. But yeah, that will the people who got in like 10 years ago on that's going to end in a few years' time. Yeah. But that's only a small group of people. Everyone else, they're just on a standard feed-in tariff. Yeah. And yeah, so if you are in that group, then you'll go from this special high feed-in tariff just down to a normal one like everybody else. Yeah. Yeah.
That's why I'm very keen as soon as that evaporates.
Yeah.
I want to be using my electricity during the day. So.
That's right. Yep. Yep. We could talk about solar all day, but yeah, not really the topic of this presentation. And we have information on that as well that you can find on our website. All right. So the key takeaways: find the best energy deal. That's the simplest, easiest way to save money on your bill. Electricity retailers, the same as insurance companies and phone companies, internet companies, they're all sort of tricky these days. If you don't shop around, then the deal that you're on is going to gradually get more and more expensive over time, right? So they're making money off the people who don't shop around for a few years or many years. So if you haven't shopped around for a long time, then yeah, they're probably making more money off you than what they should be. So yeah, unfortunately that's part of our competitive privatised system these days. So it's up to the consumer to try and get a good deal. Reduce your energy usage, so heating and cooling especially. So insulation, draft sealing. Efficient appliances, personal heating, if that works out in some situations. And yeah, look at solar as well. So yep, we're here to help. As I said at the start, we've got services in a wide range. We've got 20-minute phone consultations, which are free, and we've also got especially if you're building a new home or doing a major renovation, then we also have a 1-hour consultation which can get into real detail on all these sorts of topics to try and future-proof your home. So that's it from me. Thanks very much.
Thank you.